Welcome to this edition of Second Chance Sports. I'm your host, Chance Dyson. And today's episode is going to be just a little bit different than normal. As you know, the podcast was just the beginning, and I cannot thank everyone enough for the incredible amount of support and positive feedback I've received since the inception of the Second Chance Sports podcast. But today, I would like to welcome you to the first edition of my brand new series, the Second Chance Sports Challenge. In this series, I will talk to multiple people, athletes, coaches, etc., in regard to their specific sport of interest. For instance, if I were to interview someone within the world of basketball, they would be challenged to play me in a game of NBA 2K while we talk about their background in the sport and how they got to where they are today. And it gives me great pleasure to challenge my friend Nick Gimbel to a game of NHL 20 and talk about his background in hockey, broadcasting, and his whole experience as a broadcaster. Nick, thank you for being here and being the first person to accept the challenge.
Thanks for having me on. Third time on Second Chance Sports. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to getting into a different realm of this podcast show, whatever you want to call this format. It looks good. It looks exciting. So I'm here for it.
I appreciate it. It's the challenge, and it's been a challenge. So let's get right into the challenge, and let's choose our teams. And they're kind of already popped up there, but I'm the Pittsburgh Penguins. Obviously repping them. They're my favorite. But you're the Avalanche.
Yes.
The Colorado Avalanche. Why are the Avalanche your favorite team?
So my favorite thing to say is that I was brainwashed from birth.
Right.
Both of my parents are from Colorado Springs. They were born and raised there. I've only been to Colorado just a few times.
Really?
My parent, I was born in 1996, the same year that Colorado won their first Stanley Cup.
Okay.
So my parents, you've got the stadium jerseys, all right.
Oh yeah, I'm rocking the stadium jerseys.
All right, not a big deal. I'll be the home team wearing my away jerseys. That's fine. All right, so we're gonna be at Pepsi Center, the 5 minutes and everything. Let's get it.
You ready? Let's get right into it.
So yeah, my parents being from Colorado, they brainwashed me from birth. I'm Avalanche, Rockies, Nuggets, Broncos, anything and everything Colorado and Denver related.
Okay. And so did you have a favorite player growing up? Was it like
I was a defenseman.
Okay.
So my favorite players, I mean, obviously you're cheering for laundry.
Right.
So I would have a favorite player, they'd get traded away. I'd have a couple of favorite players, they'd quit. So I've had multiple favorite players over the years, not the typical Bobby Orrs, Wayne Gretzky's, because I was a defenseman.
Right.
And I would always say stuff like, oh, well, the NHL's top 10 plays are really just the top 10 defensive failures of the week.
Right. And so when you played defenseman, that was actually going to be one of my questions for you. Why did you play defenseman? Why did you choose that position, or did you just kind of get tossed there?
I kind of got tossed there because when I started playing, it became a thing of, oh, well, enough people wanted to score, and I was never good enough to be a goal scorer.
Right.
So my game was always, my game was always mirrored to be penalty kill, block shots.
Right.
Not something like that where I'm supposed to make the first pass in a breakout. That's the stuff that I was good at. I was never a goal scorer. I was never a playmaker. I made the first pass getting out of the defensive zone, and I blocked shots and just stood my ground in front of the net.
So, what was your favorite part about that position?
I was an agitator.
Right.
I loved being on the penalty kill, or I loved being 5-on-5, standing in front of the net, and that kind of net front just scrums and everything like that. Not a lot of stuff gets called from the referee and stuff like that. So my goal was to always pick out the best player for the opposite team, and that's a big power play for me to start.
Oh. That was not intended. That was all CPU, as much as I don't want to admit that.
So my thing was always being an agitator. I would find the best player on the other team, because that's who I would be matched up against.
Right.
And I would try to make them take penalties, and because that's the best form of defense. They're off the ice for 2 minutes.
So you were the world star of hockey.
Yes. Yes.
You were the fight agitator. You were the starter. Oh.
And so this is kind of what I was saying earlier in the day. And I think you just may have taken another penalty.
Did I?
Charging. So
why?
our video game styles are going to be so different, where I'm going to be playing as if Teddy Bluger just absolutely destroys Gerard. That's fine. So my style of video game plays, I'm going to be playing as if I was actually playing.
Right,
You're
strategically.
Like, you were on the penalty kill, you tried to skate it up. That's a video game style. And see how you're chasing me all around, forcing the bad pass. That's going to work. But see, I'm going to move the puck around, get to an open area, and ring it off the crossbar and absolutely fail.
When you think you're going to score, just when you think. And well, a lot of people, though, they obviously you normally kill the penalty. You're sending it back in as if you're icing the puck. But it's, I don't know, my play style has always been just a push because nobody expects it. And I've played... And if I'm honest with you guys who are listening at home, I have been on NHL 20 for probably 2 weeks. And I have not played a game since NHL 18. And I have dedicated time to learning this. That way I would be halfway decent against Nick. And I don't even know. I tested so many play styles through online play and through playing like my brother. And it was just kind of like I finally found my style of play that I thought would work against Nick, and obviously it's not working here right now. But
I've got to hit the net there.
Yeah.
Oh,
But Nick,
nice.
so have you ever been to an NHL game? I mean, that's kind of a goofy question to ask you, but have you been to an NHL game? And if you have, like, which one was your favorite?
So it's not actually that goofy of a question. I grew up in the Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach area where there was not an NHL team.
Right.
Where, I just dove right at you, so you're going to have a power play if you don't score here, Grubauer.
Not score.
My closest NHL team was 4 hours away in North Carolina, in Raleigh with the Carolina Hurricanes,
Right.
or the Washington Capitals up in D.C.
Right.
So I didn't really have an NHL team close to me. Oh, my best defenseman's in the box. So I've only been to like 5, maybe 6 NHL games.
Really?
My favorite, though, is the first or second year that I was living down here in Florida. For my birthday in December, the Avalanche made a trip to Tampa Bay. And I got to go to an Avalanche Lightning game. And I got to meet the play-by-play broadcaster for the Colorado Avalanche, Mark Moser, and got to have a conversation with him. And, oh, wow, that was right on the goal line. And so I got to have a conversation with him and pick his brain about what his path to the NHL was, where I should be going next in my career path.
And so how did that happen? Was that something like your family set up for you to meet him, or was it just kind of like just by accident?
I got a chance to reach out to him on social media. He was nice enough to say, yeah, let's meet up before the game starts, and I got a nice little 5 to 10 minute chat with him.
See, that's awesome. And see, that's what it's really all about is like I've talked to you multiple times. You got 2 people in the box.
Yeah.
Oh my, how am I on a 5-on-3 and not scored yet?
Because I keep diving to block the shot and you skate right into me. And I
yeah.
get hit with a tripping penalty. It's never my fault. Not once.
Never your fault?
Backhand through the middle, that should never work. Oh, don't chase.
So, I know I got to ask you earlier, but we kind of got distracted, obviously, because we've got a pretty heated game going on here. But who was your favorite player growing up?
Growing up, it was a player by the name of John Michael Lyles. For whatever reason, I gravitated towards offensive-style defenders, even though that wasn't my style of game, because that's the style of game that I wanted to play. Of course, everyone wants to be the goal scorer.
Right.
Everyone wants to be the superstar.
Well, it's like everybody wanting to be the striker in soccer.
Right. Oh, come on. But so as time went by and John Michael Lyles actually got traded to Toronto, I had to find a new favorite player.
Right.
So I would latch on to other offensive defenders, where now if I could go back and find a new favorite player, wouldn't necessarily be Nathan McKinnon as a forward. It would probably be a player like Nikita Zadorov or Eric Johnson, who's the big rough and tough style defenseman, and doing exactly what I said I had to style my game around.
Right. And so have you gotten to see him play, or was that just like a...
They were not on the team when I went to go see him and play in Tampa, so I haven't got to see them play in person yet. Oh, Makar doesn't have a stick.
I know. I'm like, I've gotten these pushes where I'm like, I feel like I'm about to score, and then I just get absolutely mollywopped.
Big stick. And see, that's what I mean. Eric Johnson just sits in front of the net and broke up that pass. and I know this is all video game, but these are all real things that happen in the course of a game.
Well, once we get a little further into the game, I'm gonna have you do something for me. That you told me a story the other day that made me think about this, of where your friends would have you call the game while you're watching it. They would just mute the TV and have you call it. So eventually, as we get further into this, maybe a little after the half, or I say the second period intermission, I want to turn the audio off, and I want to have everyone be able to hear you and your skills as a play-by-play within the game. I mean, even though it's just a game, it's still pretty close to the same thing.
So funny enough about that, when we had the sports shutdown for the longest time, big save. When we had the sports shutdown, other teams had to find ways to fill gaps in their airtime. So obviously I was keeping up with Colorado on their social media.
Right.
And their whole thing was they created a Twitch streaming service, and kind of how, like, when we were testing all of this out, we would do CPU versus CPU.
Right.
And that's exactly what they did. They would put the game on the superstar level, CPU versus CPU. Find the net. Happy Gilmore, go to your home. Oh.
So as we get close to the end of the first intermission, we're still at 0-0, which is kind of impressive. I must say, are you impressed with my?
I know how much you've been practicing, so I was expecting something like this. I see your style of play, but you can see how, like, when I'm playing defense, I'm backing up and letting you come to me.
Right.
That's how you play defense in a real game of hockey. You don't attack the forward.
Right.
You let them come back. You play a nice gap, and then you send them into the boards.
Well, now what I've noticed is with NHL, they swap you back and forth, so now I'm playing up. And
Yes.
for me personally, it seems easier to play up on the ice. And I've never been like, I've always been playing this from a CPU standpoint. I might get a goal here.
Oh. Go.
So as we have spoken more about players that aren't really known that, oh my goodness, Landeskog.
Gabe Landeskog, he was a big piece that was missing in that Game 7 overtime loss to Dallas. He got injured late in the third period of Game 6, and so he was just one of like the 6 or 7 players that was just completely missing from the Avalanche lineup.
And so, speaking of Landeskog, that is a name, personally, again, people who have listened to my podcast, you know that I'm not a hockey guy. Landeskog is a name that I did not hear until I started playing the Colorado Avalanche at CPU. So, my question for you is, since he's not really heard of like a Sidney Crosby or an Ovi or even like a Nico Anthony, who would you say is the most underrated player in the NHL right now?
Underrated player in the NHL would probably be someone a little bit older. I mean, with so much video that happens. Oh, that was a good save.
That was a good save.
There's so much video that happens both in NHL locker rooms, and you've got ESPN I say ESPN, but
You mean Fox?
You've got other NBC replays. That there's really not an underrated player in the NHL. Everyone's kind of got their own thing.
Right.
That makes them. Now I'm going to have a little bit of bias here, but the player that I have right now, Ryan Graves, he's in his rookie or sophomore season. That goes into the bench.
I think we should get delayed game for him.
See, if it went over the glass, it does. But because the theory is, there should be glass there rather than the bench, that would be a delay of game.
Okay. Anyhow, so as far as underrated players,
Ryan Graves, he's in his first or second year in the National Hockey League. He leads. He ended the regular season leading all players in the NHL in the plus-minus category.
You want the smoke?
You want?
I want the smoke.
Nah, I don't want the smoke.
No, you don't want the.
I don't want the smoke. No, why would I take the smoke? I'm up 1-0. Why would I want to give you momentum in a game that I'm winning? There's a lot more strategy behind the fighting in hockey that more people see.
I've won more face-offs? Okay, I might have just jinxed that. But, no, so my next question for you would be, if you could meet someone, like anyone, whether it was a broadcaster, a player, or a coach even, within the sports world, who would it be? And we could talk about hockey, obviously, but I don't know. Is there anybody else specifically, like from football or basketball even maybe? It's probably hockey more than anything, but anybody you would want to meet?
I want to meet Al Michaels.
Okay.
He was the voice of, I believe it was ABC,
Right.
who aired The Miracle on Ice in 1980. And listening to Al Michaels and his broadcast, I mean, I've watched Miracle probably 100 times.
Okay.
So even though Al Michaels doesn't really do hockey,
right.
Oh, I wanted that move. I've been practicing that
I
move
know,
so
you've been
much.
practicing that move for hours, days.
Oh, that was
probably.
a...
Oh, no, icing. I might get it out.
No.
I might get it out. I got it.
That is a horrible call by the officials. The rule is supposed to be win the race to the dots, and it negates the icing.
Man, that's amazing.
I won the race to the dots, and it got called off. But so Al Michaels is a voice and a name that I made synonymous with hockey.
Right.
Because that's what I grew up doing. On road trips to Northern Virginia to play travel hockey, I would watch Miracle. I would watch Mighty Ducks.
Right.
So Al Michaels, I never understood why growing up he didn't really do anything hockey.
Right.
And then I found out, oh, well, he just did it because he was affiliated with whatever station did the hockey in 1980.
Okay.
And I see it more so now. Mike Emmerich, who is the voice of NBC for hockey, that's offsides. Back in, like, I think maybe 2012, 2014 Olympics, he was doing water polo. And I'm like...
Water polo?
Yeah, because there's no hockey in Summer Olympics, but he's an NBC employee.
Okay, yeah.
So they hired him to do water polo.
Right.
But so that's kind of what Al Michaels was doing in 1980.
Okay, so what... Oh, that's offsides. So what made you want to become a hockey broadcaster, a broadcaster in general? Because I know, like, we did the Bethune-Cookman football game. We've done a lot of stuff together, including the podcast. What made you want to be a broadcaster, and what was your first experience in the booth?
So the thing that made me want to be a broadcaster is I've always had the mind to be a high-level player, but my skill never caught up to my mind.
Okay.
So like you said, I'm the guy that you go to for all
Right.
of the hockey talk because I can talk it. I know exactly what's going on. It's like you with football.
Right.
But I could play at a high level, but I wasn't ever going to play at a really, really super high level like college or anything like that. But so when I was watching games with my parents or with my family or with friends, I would say something that happened like maybe behind the play or something that would happen like during a goal that a broadcaster or a color commentator would see. Oh, big left
what a
pad
save.
save. But so I would say, hey, this is why this play happened. This is what made this play so important. This is who this player was. I would have all the little tidbits to add to a broadcast without being in the broadcast booth. And then the color commentator, the TV broadcaster, would repeat me 5 seconds later.
Right.
And it would happen at least once every game that I would watch. There's 82 games in a season plus playoffs. It happened at least 82 times a year.
Oh, he got thrown?
He got a game misconduct. That's a check from behind. I may have a 5-minute major power play here.
Really? If I have anything to do with it, I'm trying. Oh, jeez. Get it out of here.
Yeah, I've got 5 minutes of power play time to work with. And what's so interesting about the 5-minute major penalties as opposed to, thank God that's offside.
No.
The thing that's so interesting about the 5-minute major penalties as opposed to the 2-minute minor penalties is the 5-minute major penalties, I can score as much as I want, and
So-
the penalty's not going to go away.
Really?
Whereas if you notice during a game or even when you're playing this, if you score on a regular 2-minute power play, the power play goes away.
Right, yeah,
We-
that's what I assumed that it did that on all of them.
So that's for all of the 2-minute penalties. Whereas for anything that's a 5-minute major penalty, the severity of that penalty deems it such that, Oh, big tip in front.
Well, considering he got thrown from the game, I would think that it, deserved a bigger penalty.
Right. So you lose that player for the rest of the game, and the 5-minute penalty does not expire just because of a goal.
Right. And so is hockey your only one of your, I mean, like I said, we've done football and all that, but what are your other experiences within broadcast? What have you done? I know you've done soccer. Like, what else have you done?
So going back to that, to one of the first question, the earlier question, my first experience was on a team that I played for last, because we play at a high enough level where we were drawing in players from all over the country.
Right.
So all of these parents that lived in California, Wisconsin, Canada, even I remember having a teammate from Slovenia. And so we had a live streaming service for all of our games, so that out-of-town parents could watch their kids play.
Right. And that's cool. That's a heck of a first experience.
Right. And so my first experience, and really the reason I quit playing, is because when I asked my coaching staff and the general managers, because we had two teams, a higher and a lower level, I played on the lower level, I was like, hey, my game's over, they're playing right after, I'm here, can I broadcast the game after?
Right.
They said, no, you need to focus on your game tomorrow, or we don't want you on the upper team yet, they get more exposure.
Okay.
So stuff like that really discouraged me, like, well, I can't play and broadcast at the same time, obviously.
Right, no.
So I stopped playing and I broadcasted for the team that I used to play for. And so my very first experience, I mean, I have a lower voice.
Right.
My voice was much higher,
Like
much
mine at
nervous.
Bethune?
Yes.
We talk about this all the time, where it's like...
Right. I mean, that's a pretty even game. I am absolutely destroying you in hits.
I've hit you like 6 times and got penalized every time.
You've got 19 penalty minutes.
Good Lord.
We've played 40 minutes of hockey, and half of them you've been on the penalty kill.
Been on the penalty kill.
Now here's the other thing though. On the stat sheet, a game misconduct counts as 10 penalty minutes.
Okay, well that
So you've
makes
got
sense.
10 minutes on the misconduct, 5-minute major penalty, and 2 minors. 4 and 5 equals 9.
Right.
9 plus 10 is 19.
19.
Math. I'm a numbers guy if you didn't know.
Yeah, right. Well, so now that we're here, now what I want you to do is I want to kill the audio. And I want you, and I mean, we're going to have the crowd noise. I kept the commentator off for a reason if anybody noticed he was gone. As we come back into this, I want you, and I'm not trying to put you at a disadvantage here, but I want you to commentate on what's going on. I'm going to shut up for a few minutes, which always needs to happen. But I'm gonna shut up for a few minutes, and I want you to commentate as we go.
And see, this is such a different angle for me, because on a normal broadcast, I'm looking at the sheet of ice on a horizontal plane.
Right.
Whereas this time, it's going to be vertical, up and down.
Hey,
So-
learn something new every day, right?
So, all right, I don't even know if I've never even tried this before. So that's Makar. Makar moves it up the right wing wall to Rantanen. He gets pinned on the boards, and Makar gets it back. Still 40 seconds left of power play time. JT Compher with a big hit along the wall, gives it to Landeskog, gets it back to Compher, and he'll send it up the middle for McKinnon. Near side for Rantanen, a backhand shot is smothered by Murray, and he'll leave it out, and the Penguins come back on the breakout. Brandon Tanev, good toe drag, getting right in, and he's tripped up on the play, and that's going to be a penalty against Colorado. A third tripping minor penalty of the game with 18:43 left in the third period. Colorado leads 1-0, and we'll get a look at the replay here. JT Compher just takes out the Penguin player going for a blocked shot. 1:17 into the third period of play. Matt Calvert, an injured player in the playoffs, he'll go in for the faceoff. He'll win it back, and Eric Johnson sets up behind his net, and he'll slap it right off the glass. It's kept in by Nick Schultz. Schultz right into the circle on the left wing wall, gets it back, and Ricola has it taken away. Colorado can't clear it out. Johnson gets it, and on the forehand, he'll send it out to center ice, but not all the way down. Matt Calvert will finish the job working 1-on-2. Jost in front, and it's stolen away by Schultz, and he'll send it all the way down on an icing call, not the power play setup that the Penguins wanted with 1:03 left in the power play.
That is so good. Keep going. I want to hear more.
Jonas Donskoy, a trade acquired from the San Jose Sharks. An offensive faceoff is won by Pittsburgh. And they'll skate it right through center ice. Brian Rust stops up in the circle, looking right into the slot. He skates it to the far wall. Crosby takes a shot, and it's blocked in front, and the Avalanche will clear it all the way down. No icing as they still got 20 seconds on their penalty kill. Burakovsky backs up, not wanting to give too much pressure, angles his man to the board, separates the puck from body, and it forces an offside call against Pittsburgh with 16:52 left in period number 3.
This is getting close. And so now I'm going to take you off that for a second. I know we don't have enough time, but I really want to come back to that. That's really fun for me to listen to you call it, because I've actually never been able to listen to one of your hockey games being called. And so hearing you outside of football is hearing you in your element is just really interesting.
And it's a really understated, I should not say, but it's the main thing I do is hockey. I played for 10 years. I reffed for 8 years. I coached for 3 years.
I was going to say, you coached a junior team, right?
I coached an under 10 team. I taught 10-year-olds the fundamentals of hockey.
That's got to be fun.
It was a nightmare to coach 12 10-year-olds alone on a sheet of ice.
Yeah. I guess, when you've got parents probably all standing on the side going, you're going to let my kid slip.
It was one of my proudest moments in the world of hockey when our first 2 games, our team lost 10-2 and 13-5. Oh,
there it
tied
is.
up.
Malkin, finally my first goal. Finally, all the way into the third period. So you said you lost your first 2 games, and then what?
And then we made it to number 5 in the state.
Number 5 in the state.
In the entire state. We went to the state finals, and we lost in the quarterfinal round. We ended up 4th or 5th in the entire state of Florida. And so that's one of my proudest moments, taking a team that knew nothing about hockey. The under 10 team in Jacksonville folded, so I had to teach these kids, like, hey, yes, these are old opponents, but they are your new teammates, and try to teach them that the name on the front of the sweater is much more important than anything on the back of the sweater.
Right. Well, I'm sure there was a little bit of tension because especially I'm sure having opponents on your team, and especially if you end up getting with one, I know how being 10 or 11 years old is where you're like, oh my God. Where you're like, oh, that might be a good one. Oh, one-timer missed. A wraparound. Oh my God. See, this is the kind of stuff I want to hear you calling, stuff like that where I'm calling it by accident, but I would want to hear you do it. Oh, now I got to reset. All right, everybody get back on side. This is getting tight, Nick.
Oh, good poke check.
No. So, Nick, if not hockey, what sport would it be? Got it.
If not hockey, really nothing else.
Really?
So my realm of broadcasting, like I said, I started in hockey. I did 3 years of that before I branched out and did something else.
Right.
I randomly reached out to the Daytona Rush,
right.
USL League 2 soccer team in the area. They brought me on to do soccer play-by-play. So the first time I've ever done a broadcast, and I know what you're going to bring up next.
You know what I'm smirking for. Keep talking though. I want to hear that. Before I bring that up.
The very first broadcast I ever did that was not played on a sheet of ice was a soccer broadcast that was real live action play, and that gave me the confidence to really branch out and do other sports and reach out and do something like Bethune-Cookman
right.
for football. And I know what you're going to bring up next, other than you've gone 2-on-1 the past 3 shifts in a row.
That deke was nice.
I'm not here for it, but I still got time. See, I just timed that dive too late. I'll let you get that pass across.
We'll skip that. We don't. Let's get back into the game. I'm really enjoying this. Very.
8:43 left. There's still
Hey, there's
time.
a lot of hockey left to play. So what I was smirking about is and I'm going to bring up something that I did before I call Nick out for something that he did. So in that Bethune broadcast that Nick and I did, I decided to go full NFL analyst and talk about a 2-minute warning happening in college football. And so now that I've called myself out a little bit, now I want to let Nick have it. Nick, tell them that story. I want you to tell them because it's better hearing it from you.
So going back, like I said, my only experience in broadcasting was 4 years of hockey. And in case you didn't know the obvious, hockey is played with a puck instead of a ball. For about 70 minutes of soccer, I was doing fine. I was doing great. I was a little bit nervous, but
Voice was a little high.
Voice was a little bit high, but I had it all under control. And then at about 75 minutes into the game, my biggest blunder, which wasn't really caught by too many people, I called the ball a puck. And I knew it immediately. So, and that's the main thing about live sports and live TV. I didn't have a chance to sit there and just feel bad for myself.
Right, you had to keep going.
I had to keep going.
Oh, and I bet your color commentator was looking at you like you were looking at me, like you just called the ball a puck. I'm gonna score again.
Yeah, you are. Yep, that 2-on-1 play, that's something you've been trying to do this entire game, hasn't it?
Every time. Teddy
Bluger. Good rookie. Looks like he's 12 years old.
Who was it that we said looked like he was 12 years old with
Your
a beard?
goalie, Matt Murray.
So, as we lurch closer to the end of this, what has been one of your favorite, outside of coaching the 10-year-olds, what has been your favorite experience in hockey, and what gravitates you towards hockey so much?
So, and this is all my personal opinion, I see hockey as the ultimate spectator sport and the ultimate player sport. And
right.
You're getting a power play.
I'm getting a power for hooking.
That was tripping, but
wait, tripping or hooking?
Tripping.
Oh, tripping's down here.
All right,
hooking is hooking this or?
So the hooking motion is this.
Okay. So tripping is this.
Yes.
Hooking is this. This is charging.
Charging.
Are there any? I mean, I want to get back to
There's
that question,
there's about 50 others that
gosh.
it would take way too long to. Again, like I said, I reffed for 8 years, so I know all of those hand motions.
Oh.
And just a minute left. This game's out of reach now that you scored on 3 straight 2-on-1s. I might get one more here to stop the bleeding a little bit.
So after this is over, well, here actually I'm gonna pause this real quick. So Nick, a lot of people who listen to my podcast and a lot of people just in general really diss hockey. We've got, I think it's 48 seconds now. In the last 48 seconds, I want you to explain to people in under 50 seconds, people who don't watch hockey, why they should, as we finish this up.
Why they should? Well,
they should.
They
Why?
probably don't have a good team in their market. And so that's the main thing for fans is they want a good team. There's so many lower level professional teams. They're $10 a ticket. Go out and support a local team. If you like the physicality of football, then you'll like the body checking in hockey.
Right.
If you like the brutality of MMA fighting, you'll like hockey.
Right.
If you like the strategy of chess and baseball, you'll like hockey.
Right.
There's so much strategy that happens that goes on behind the scenes
Right.
with coaches wanting the correct lines out with each other. And if you like superstar matchups,
Right.
you'll like hockey. My number one disliked thing about how commentators call football is they'll call it a QB versus QB all-star matchup.
Right.
When they're not on the field at the same time ever.
Right.
Sidney Crosby versus Nathan McKinnon on the ice at the same time. So if you like superstar matchups, you're going to like hockey. And that's all that the NHL wants is their superstars to be playing. And so that's why it was such a hard blow to have so many important players taken out in the final few games of the round 2 of the playoffs
Right.
for Colorado.
You know what really got me? That round robin, having to explain that to me, was the hardest thing I have ever had to do in my life to try to understand.
And it's because it's also unprecedented in these times. There's never been a round robin to get into the playoffs before.
Right.
There's never been a play-in round.
Well, with a final score of 4-3, that concludes this episode of the Second Chance Sports Challenge. Nick, thanks so much for joining me, man. It's always a pleasure to have you for a third time.
Third time on Second Chance Sports.
Did I say 4-1 or 4-3?
You said 4-3.
Oh, 4-1.
I appreciate the vote of confidence, but I only got one, and you scored 4 straight on me.
Jeez. Well, before we close out, as I realized I just had a huge blunder after I picked on you. Can you tell everyone where they can find you online one more time? We're going to plug you for real this time. I've even got a graphic for you that's going to blow up and it's going to plug you.
So I've made everything super simple. Twitter and Instagram, the same thing, Nick_Gimbel. Just search my name on YouTube, Nick Gimbel. I've said it on the podcast format that I've created a hype reel, a hype video for Daytona Rush, the soccer team that I broadcast for. And I have a couple of highlight games from when I did junior hockey, the broadcasts. And I have my demo reels on there from when I did I've done 7 professional games in the world of hockey. I've done games at the level of the Orlando Solar Bears.
Right.
And I do college for Embry-Riddle. Their hockey team plays in South Daytona. I do soccer. I've got a couple of the clips from the Bethune broadcast. So I've got everything on there on YouTube, and then I use the Instagram as more personal side of things. Twitter I try to keep hockey specific or broadcast specific.
That's how I am about my Twitter, same thing. So once again, Nick, thank you for joining me, dude. Huge thank you to everyone behind the scenes for helping me get this series off the ground. And this series would not be possible without everyone off screen, and especially Nick on screen. He's been a huge help. And finally, thanks to you at home for tuning in to the Second Chance Sports Challenge. Be sure to follow, like, rate, subscribe, and keep up to date through the Second Chance Sports Challenge series, where we're going to enter the realms of 2K, MLB The Show, FIFA, of course, my favorite, Madden, and many more. But after this, we've definitely got some interesting people coming up after Nick, and stay tuned. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.